do it every year. It's like, oh, this team got beat here, so they didn't deserve X, Y, Z.
We deserve to be ranked higher, and we want some respect.
I would love to antagonize people and egg some people on and see what kind of chaos we can have in the stands.
FCS Fans Nation. You know, every now and then when we do this podcast, we decide, wouldn't it be nice to bring some experts on? Wouldn't it be nice to get some knowledge out there? There is no better time to do that than when Jamie Williams is not on the podcast, because then we're at a steep disadvantage
100%
of the FCS brain. And you know what? We solved that this evening, this week, because we have one of the best. This is Alex Kenkel from Jackrabbit Illustrated. He is our third human on the FCS podcast, live tonight on Sunday, which beyond him, of course, our live viewers are coming in with comments. Alex, we are pumped to have you, and I'm going to give you compliments first. I'm actually going to give you the stage to tell us what you are all involved in the FCS. And the compliment I want to give you is, it seems like with FCS media, the national stuff, there's not a lot of it. So there are actual fans who build it up. And if you have a will and you have a kind of good mindset and a good football brain and you're a good human, you can find your way into the circles of the FCS. And Alex Kenkel himself has gone up, 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 up. Suddenly I see him in Red Shirt Sports just voting, and suddenly I see him on Jackrabbit Illustrated, and I see him writing articles, and I'm seeing FCS analytics from his Twitter account. And that's enough of me talking about Alex. We'll let him talk about himself. Mr. Kenkel, welcome to the show. How are you, my man?
I'm doing well. I'm honored you guys have me tonight. Yeah, I expertise on the level of Jamie Williams, I do not know about that. But no, for those that don't know, I part of Jackrabbit Illustrated's fan run SDSU group. I primarily am kind of our Missouri Valley guy, so I do a blog every week, which I started a new job last month, so I've missed 2 weeks this year or 2 months ago, but try to do a blog every week where I preview the upcoming week's games, and I've got some analytics and stuff I developed to track that, simulate games, that sort of things, give projected finishes, and then that ties into on once again here this channel. You can find us Wednesday nights. Ben and Brendan and myself, we have Scared Money Don't Make Money, where we pick against the spread for every Missouri Valley and ranked FCS matchup. Then the other thing, as Matt alluded to here, is I am a voter in the Red Shirt Sports media pool. That was something James Singleton that reached out to me, who runs Red Shirt Sports, a month or two ago. And it's just fun. I half serious, half jokingly call it the best media poll, and I repost it on Twitter every week because it's good. James has done a solid job of vetting who's involved in that, and I think it's a quality group of guys. One of them to the bottom of me down here. Kyler, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. It by far is the best poll. Let's just be honest with ourselves. It's by far the best poll. In second place ain't even close. But you're not going to have a hard time sounding smart because Jamie's not even smart. Just when he's talking with us two knuckleheads, it makes it seem like he's super intellectual. He doesn't know shit either. So the good news is when you talk with us, you just have to say one QB's name from a team we've never heard of, and all of a sudden you're a rock star.
Yeah, sure. That's basically the standard around here. With that, though, the standard for surviving in our survivor pool as we get the evening started is low. And guess what?
Just one dude left?
We have 19 humans left because we're going to talk about them. Idaho doomed 2 more this week. So 19 survived. Also, someone didn't get their pick in time. He's a guy with 3 kids and who's talking right now. So for non-selecting, I am also out. Integrity first, baby. So someone's winning a $50 Visa gift card. We have 19 people left, and their options are getting limited. That's been fun. We have an incredible sponsor that our great Mariners fan is going to let us know about. And what do we got, Kyler?
Well, of course, it's the weekly ad read from our best sponsor that we love tremendously. And guess what? We're going to focus this one on Idaho because you shit the bed. So Idaho called this their homecoming, packed houses, big speeches, fans chanting like they were back in the glory days. Then Northern Colorado strolled into Moscow and turned the Kibbe Dome into the Sodom of sadness. The Vandals got cooked 49-33, snapping their 9-game home streak and sending their own fans home dehydrated from all the crying. Maybe if they grabbed Renegade Hydrate, they could have made it past halftime without melting down. Loaded with clean electrolytes, zero sugar, and more endurance than Idaho's defense. Renegade Hydrate keeps you fueled when others fold because hydration shouldn't collapse faster than a top 10 team on homecoming night. Renegade Hydrate. Fuel for the bold, not for teams that fold.
Dang, we have Renegades. Well done. Good read again, Kyler. And we have Renegades link in the description below. Their updated link directly to their website. So make sure you order there. Dallas's product is incredible. Make sure you guys give it a shout. And
made me so happy watching Idaho lose.
Oh,
I got so excited, and that right when they lost, I went, yes. Now I can dig on the Idahos a little more.
It opened it wide open for you. You had a good week. Mariners are winning. Idaho is losing.
I think they're losing right now, but oh well. Big series.
We'll see what happens. Well, with that, let's get to listening to the great Alex Kenkel and yourself spit some knowledge on the top 6 topics of the week.
What are FCS fans talking and posting about nonstop? It's time for the top 6 topics of the week.
You know, if you're going to bring a Jackrabbit guy on to the stage, you're going to want to make sure you wear your hat provided by Mr. Seth Meyer, an incredible Jackrabbit fan and human. And then you're going to want to start off with a Taco King Brian Thompson question, which involves North Dakota State, of course. So Brian comes at us and he says, was Taco full of tacos, or was he correct weeks ago with his call of its NDSU versus the field? This narrative was kind of picking up 2-3 weeks ago, I think, a little bit, but weaker competition the Bison were playing was probably having its impact for anybody to go off the deep end like Brian was. An Illinois State win on the road, which was kind of a battle. I don't know if anyone's super sold in Illinois State, but the high hopes of the Salukis going down in a blowout fashion, and then a questionable tweeting about how SDSU looked against UNI in some of these games has made people think maybe there's been some separation. Alex, I was super intrigued to get your take on this. Even if you don't want to spend as much time on NDSU, I really was pumped to have you up here because I tweeted out that it seems like SDSU fans with an undefeated record have a lot of issues with their number 2 team. I think it's mostly overblown because you guys have had so much success, but tell us the reality of it. You're an analytics guy, you're a data guy, you're an eye test guy. Let's hear that, and then your thoughts on North Dakota State.
So to answer the first part from the Jackrabbit perspective, I think the biggest thing is the offense is just, it's been clunky at times. There's some people not very happy about the defensive performance against Youngstown State, and you know, Coach Jackson, Coach Bergstrom, everyone be the first to tell you that was not program standard. Jimmy Rogers kind of started that thing when he was co-DC with Bergstrom. Everyone forgets that. Brian Bergstrom, you know, this Jimmy Rogers defense, Brian Bergstrom and Jimmy Rogers developed that together. So it's complete continuity there. But, you know, the standard is 10 points. And so, like I said, people are not very happy on the defensive side in the Youngstown game. But if you look at what Youngstown's done offensively, even though they haven't put up as many points in some of the other games, they're moving the ball at a really good clip. And there were some bad run fits the first half of that game. They got cleaned up. To go back to my original point, the offense, like I said, it's felt clunky at times. You know, there was stretch set yesterday where they had 3 and out, 4 plays punt, 3 and out. But other than that, every other drive ended with points. So it's the peaks and valleys, and I think fans are wanting to see that consistency. And to then segue into answering Brian's question, no, Brian is not full of tacos. Brian must be winning so many taco bets already this year because he made me a dessert bet, not a taco bet, on the Southern Illinois NDSU game that I lost because I don't remember what the spread was. He even gave me a couple points. He's like, nope, Bison by like 20 or whatever it was. I said, he's like, dessert in Nashville. I was like, all right, deal. So now in Nashville, I have to buy Brian Thompson dessert. But you talked about some of the advanced analytics stuff. So sneak preview for my article this week, exclusive here first. NDSU's offensive series conversion rate is 89.3%. So that means on a first down, there is a 89.3% chance they are going to make another first down or score a touchdown, which is insane. To give you some frame of reference, the NCAA average is 73.5. So that is ludicrous. On the flip side, their defense, them and SDSU are neck and neck right now. NDSU's defense is 62.4, which once again, you're lower because you want to be lower. So that means offenses are only getting a first down on a new set of downs 62% of the time. Frame of reference, SDSU's at 63. But once again, frame of reference, 73 is average. So they're playing at a very high level, and they're the most complete team. I think, personal opinion from both what I've seen in some of the advanced numbers, their defense is a very good, bordering on elite level defense, but their offense could be historic this year. Not telling anyone anything new, but Cole Payton and Bryce Lance, even Barika Payne, who's starting to come on the last couple of weeks here, they're going to be hard to stop. And in 2 weeks, we're going to get them against the best defense outside of maybe themselves. And we're going to figure out if that's true to life or not, because that's the only caveat to throw my yellow and blue glasses on, is they have not played probably a top half defense yet.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. Of course, the Jackrabbit offense that seemed to have some struggles or complaints, they went up against a pretty damn good Montana State defense, and maybe it was early in the season, but they looked pretty dang good to be able to compete with them in a very tight matchup on the road. And we're going to definitely see in Brookings. The thing I just want to say about North Dakota State is what I did not expect was what Cole Payton is. You could have never in a billion years convinced me that was going to happen. First off, he looks a little scrawnier on the lower part of his body. I don't know if that was intentional to be more of a quarterback than just a tree trunk tight end, but what he does with his legs, the question is like, okay, you got all these wide receivers, you got great running backs, and you got an O-line that's good. But the second that pocket collapses, you'll never see Cole Payton's head not be downfield moving as he runs, which is psychotic. And then the accuracy and the pinpoint he's able to throw the ball. I'm not even going to sit here and brag about it or even go much more into it. I never will all year. I don't deserve to. I never thought Cole Payton would be playing left-handed as incredible as he looks. Kyler, you're the outside perspective of these two teams. And not to discount Montana State. They're playing great ball. Really, is NDSU above the field? What do you feel?
Yeah, I thought they were kind of above the field pretty much the whole year. It was kind of it's their season to lose. I mean, we get this, I guess we go back to like what NDSU's done since 2010, right? They've been this dominant force, and then they had a couple down years during like the COVID season, and now it's like, oh, it's not NDSU's NCAA FCS region anymore. It still is, right? You're down a couple years, you still won multiple national championships, right? SDSU slowed you down a little bit. JMU did a little bit. Sam Houston 1 year. Other than that, it's still been NDSU's show, and we're all just kind of here witnessing it and living in it. One thing I would say is, yeah, it's still the field against them, but people are a little too down on South Dakota State. I mean, people are like, oh, man, their offense just isn't clicking. Well, they still won 31-3, right? That's still a dominant win for any program. No program is going to be not satisfied with that type of win besides another elite program like a South Dakota State, right? They held Montana State, who I have as the third best team, and I haven't really changed them. Their offense is starting to kick butt and really put it to teams. They held them to what, 17 in the regulation, somewhere around that, because Montana State scored in overtime, right? Because it was a double overtime game.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, again, they haven't struggled defensively. Offensively, okay, cool. Maybe they're struggling compared to North Dakota State a little bit, but their defense is so elite. Who's going to score 30 points? Sure, Youngstown State did it one time. Do you think that would ever happen again if they played 100 other times? I don't.
No.
I think the game wouldn't even be close if they played Youngstown State 100 extra times. South Dakota State is still elite. They still have a hell of a defense that if you do not prep for them, good luck. But it is still NDSU's time to shine. They're the favorite, a heavy favorite this year, and they look better than probably even anticipated. But you can't just discount the Jackrabbits yet. It's a rivalry game that's coming up in a few weeks. South Dakota State still looks dominant. They've played really good teams and just made some of these teams look mediocre, just like NDSU has. But I do like Alex's point that SDSU's played, in my opinion, a little bit better defenses than NDSU so far, right? We were talking about even last week, Southern Illinois is going to be this big test. But Matt, the first thing he said is, yeah, this is going to be a good test, but their defense sucks. I mean, that was like word for word what you said last week. It's not like Southern Illinois has this good defense. You just have to.
I don't think 59th ranked defense was also sucks, but I think it was implied.
It was pretty implied that I don't think NDSU's offense was going to struggle too much. You were just more worried about, maybe Southern Illinois' offense putting it together and making it not quite a shootout, but maybe a close game for 3 quarters, which they kind of did for a little bit. They made it a close game competitive in the half before NDSU just kind of took it off the rails. So I can't wait for the marker game. That's going to be the true showing. Even though it's in Brookings, I'm still going to probably bet on NDSU just because they look like the more complete team. Arguably one of the most complete teams maybe the FCS has seen, but I can't wait to see them versus that other elite defense that the Missouri Valley has, because I don't think the Missouri Valley has many elite defenses. And honestly, I don't think the FCS as a whole right now has many elite defenses. So it'll be really fun to see what NDSU, SDSU actually put on the field together when they match up. And whoever wins that game is probably going to win the national championship. They're probably going to potentially meet again in the national championship, depending on what maybe Montana State does.
Yeah, we'll see if UND or somebody else causes some havoc as those things.
UND is looking good too.
They're looking good. No, it's going to be interesting down in Brookings. The thing I'll leave this segment in, and maybe we'll bite on a little bit later, is I was talking with one of the best Montana State fans in history, and we're talking, and I go, am I crazy to think that people think SDSU and Montana might beat NDSU and Montana State because they host them? I'm like, is that the advantage? Maybe. Who knows? Crazy things happen in Brookings the same way Jackrabbit fans used to say that about, they're like, oh, it's Fargo. I'm like, well, look at Brookings for NDSU the last decade. It's been terrible. I think they've gotten them like one time. So,
but it's also a rivalry game.
It's also a rivalry.
Sometimes you could throw out the record book.
And College Game Day is going to be there. Don't Google that, right? But who knows? You never know. Okay, so that we'll save that question for later for sure. Okay, so we think NDSU looks all great, so let's leave them out of this next question. Lee says, of the top 8 teams, what do you see as weaknesses / possible concerns that might keep them from a top seed or a semifinal appearance? So I think we kind of covered SDSU, unless, Alex, you want to go deeper into it. Maybe some inconsistencies on offense, but overall, O-line looks good. Defense is still elite. So let's go into if Montana State has something, Kyler, from where they're playing now. And I'm going to pull up the top 8, and we'll kind of work our way down. Just kick me with Montana State. Do we see a weakness in them at all? Possible concerns?
A weakness? I mean, I still don't trust their quarterback if it gets down to it throwing the ball down the field. Like if the run game isn't working, which it's going to be hard to stop Montana State's run game, especially the rest of the season with who they're going to play, because I think the Big Sky is actually quite a bit down this year. I saw a comment earlier today that said, oh, Cal Poly, they're looking tough. Northern Colorado's looking tough. No, those are just shitty teams who are making other mediocre teams look bad. So I think Montana State's not going to struggle too much. The brawl's always going to be interesting, and we'll see what happens there. But the only weakness I really have for them is if for some reason a team can load the box, slow down the run game, which not just this year, but Montana State's been so successful at in the past, since 2018, really. If they slow down, do you have the quarterback who can sling it down the field? Do you have the quarterback on a 3rd and 10 who can make things happen when his legs aren't working? That's where I'm not 100% sold on. We've seen a little bit of weaknesses when they, win against Idaho State. And actually, no, we didn't see a weakness against Idaho State. That was Montana. I apologize on that. Montana State doesn't really have a real weakness either. It's just, do I trust their quarterback enough to throw the ball when it needs to? He's looking good. He's looking efficient right now. But, yeah, that's about it. I mean, they look like another elite, complete team. And I think the top 3 teams in my ranking, NDSU, SDSU, and MSU, look like they're the most complete team for sure. Are they going to be complete enough to beat the North Dakota States? I'm not positive on that.
So we're discounting the top 3 everyone keeps talking about. Then there's this quiet bear that's been in slumber. That seems like the first quarter of every game, FCS Twitter is like, uh-oh, Montana's in trouble. And then at the end, they're not in trouble, whether that's close or by a little bit more points like they did Cal Poly. Alex, Montana perspective, what's the weakness? What do we see on them?
Yeah, it's easy recency bias, right? But you talked about slow starts. That's big. I think offensively, Ayat is playing fantastic. They've got Eli Gilman still. Drawing a blank on the true freshman wide receiver who's a do-it-all guy. And I think if you awarded the Walter Payton Award based on raw talent, he might get my vote. Maybe a little bit of a hot take there, but that dude's insane, which makes it all the worse. I'm forgetting his name. But you go back to the Idaho State game last week. You go back to even stretches of some of their other games. It's the consistency of the defense. Paper hands, Moonboy, Brooks Davis. Thank you. Like I said, it's the consistency of the defense. You know, we were talking about it in our group chat, kind of our national podcaster group chat a little bit. Jamie and Rev and I were, and I don't remember if you guys were chiming in or not. But it was one of those things where it was like they double slants or a follow route. It was free 7 yards, and they didn't adjust. Their linebackers were caught flat-footed every time. They were giving the safeties no help, and it's you go, once again, play my own card, but you go to Brookings or you go to Fargo, and you got to cover one of those two receiving cores where there's both have 3 or 4 guys that can catch the football and run in space. You're going to be in a lot of problems. Yeah, that inconsistency on defense has not been good for Montana whatsoever. And then the offense is like, I don't know. They're a mixed bag at all times, it seems like.
What happens when you're Montana real quick and you're starting off really slow, and, you know, at least you haven't played the best teams in terms of defensive caliber teams. What happens if you start off slow against a Montana State who goes up maybe 14-0, and then they have a fairly elite defense who's not going to let you come back in the third or fourth?
No, you're not getting back in that game.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to see struggles. So I can't let you talk UC Davis, Kyler, because that's a preview to question number 3. You have an actual shout out in that question. So we can't do UC Davis as we go down this line. But Tarleton State, there's a quick question about this same topic. It has to be strength of schedule and defense, right? Like right away, we were complimentary of the defense, but what it's been the last couple matchups, now are we starting to get those old, they're not in the Southland, I know, but that, Southland speed, no defense feelings, like, or is Tarleton just having a few more struggles once you lose a starting quarterback? Perspective on them?
I mean, what's crazy is they haven't really struggled since losing their starter. I mean, their starter's been out for 3 games, and they've scored 52, 52, 41. So again, if you're still going against Tarleton, they're down a more talented starter in the quarterback position, we all know is extremely important. You're down your starting quarterback, and you're still averaging 47 points a game. I don't care who you're playing against. That is still bonkers, right? And it's the whole thing is, okay, they're saying they're struggling. They just beat Utah Tech fairly easy. Sure, there was a couple, quarters where maybe they start off a little slower than you like, or it was back and forth. The only game that was even interesting was Southern Utah, but Southern Utah has a good offense, right? So you still got to outscore them. That's the problem. So do I think maybe when Tarleton comes up against an NDSU or SDSU, is that going to be a problem? Sure. But when they go against everyone else, especially in the top 10, do I think these other teams are going to go and outscore Tarleton? They don't look like the Sam Houston from the weak Southland days. They look more like an Eastern caliber team from when Eastern was actually competitive with the top tier defensive teams. It didn't matter. It's still, you got to outscore us. And sure, sometimes it kicked us in the ass in cold weather. Other times it's, guess what? It didn't matter if your defense was elite. It's going to be a 45-52 game, and whoever gets the ball last is kind of going to come out on top. So I know it was like Taco King was saying Tarleton doesn't belong in the top 10. That is a stupid take. They're doing this with a backup quarterback scoring 50 points a game 3 times in a row pretty much. And again, I don't care really about the weak schedule because their schedule is going to be lined up in the top 30 in the nation. It's not like they're going a Lehigh schedule or, maybe in the bottom 100. They're going to play a top 30 schedule. They have elite talent on the offensive side of the ball. If they play North Dakota State, I think they would rather play you guys than go to Brookings in cold weather, so then they can air it out in perfect weather. But again, it's Tarleton's. They look like the Eastern Washington of not maybe 2016, where we had 3 to 4 NFL wide receivers on the team. They maybe look like the Eastern Washington 2014, maybe 13, where you go, okay, guess what? You just got to outscore us. And there's very few teams that I think can go toe-to-toe and just get in an absolute shootout battle with Tarleton and come out on top. Sure, it can happen. All it takes is sometimes one nice defensive outing, and then that other team is up, and all right, it's going to be tough to come back, but there's not many teams in the FCS, especially this year, that I think can go toe-to-toe in a direct shootout with Tarleton.
I'll just go to the Rev there. Kyler nailed Tarleton spot on. As we transition into Lehigh and Tennessee Tech, this is just a simple matter of the fact of the strength of schedule, and do you trust that these athletes and the size and who they are will match up against the big boys to get them to the semis? Because that's the question here. Can they get to a semifinal appearance? Do you trust Lehigh and Tennessee Tech when they inevitably get to Fargo, Brookings, Bozeman, somewhere, that they hold up in those conditions? What's crazy about Tennessee Tech, they are the number 3 total offense in the FCS. They are the number 3 total defense in the FCS. Isn't that bonkers? 3rd and 3rd right now. Maybe that hasn't updated from this last week, but that's pretty wild, and Jamie's been high on them. Lehigh drops down to 24th overall on offense, but they are a top 10 defense. They're 9th overall, and they're undefeated. So these are teams that are probably going to take on CAA opponents, probably have more success than you realize because people are holding on to CAA logos. Maybe they upset a SoCon team or something, but I don't know if they're going to have the in-the-trenches size and athletes to compete all the way into the semifinals. Alex, I'd love you to take on to this last one to end this question after I kind of go, because we got Southern Illinois and Illinois State here in the top 10. Southern Illinois, DJ Williams and that quarterback, he's good, and he's a dual threat, and he throws the ball well. They have some good guys at wideout. The line play was solid. They have some boys, and their defense, 2 turnovers is what turned that thing into a crapshoot. Southern Illinois was going for a field goal with about a minute left in the first half to take the lead at halftime. And they choke up on a run. NDSU and Bryce Lance and Cole Payton go all the way down the field. 17-10, the whole thing flips. So I think Southern Illinois is going to cause a lot of trouble. I think their defense is what would doom them late in the playoffs. But if I'm SDSU or NDSU, I don't want to see Southern Illinois again.
No.
I think Illinois State is this average on both sides, non-sexy thing. I don't know what animal that is, but they are just like I don't know if the defense really worries me. I don't know if the offense worries me. They're just this slow-moving item. Not a lot of scary weapons. Quarterback's not elite. Good enough to probably make the playoffs, but not something I think is going to get in the semifinals. Anything to tag on any of those, Alex, especially those Valley teams?
Yeah, Lehigh, Tennessee Tech. I think Tennessee Tech's for real. I think they're probably a little, if you look at my ballot and redshirt, they're probably a little underrated in the stats poll. Lehigh's an interesting case study because they haven't played anyone, but none of their games have been super close. They're winning them all 2-3 scores, kind of doing what they're supposed to, but I don't know the competition's that good. To get where I can have kind of more of a detailed or intelligent opinion, I'll co-sign everything you said about Southern Illinois. That offense, and by offense, really it's DJ Williams. They've got some other good skill around him, but there are very few teams at this level that can account for what he can do to completely turn a ball game single-handedly.
That's how I watch him with NDSU. I'm like, I know this final score, I know whatever, but I'm just thinking of him against other teams 9 through 25, and I go, good luck. This guy's going to tear you up.
Yeah, his only thing is his ball security. He's thrown some picks this year and he's lost a couple fumbles, but part of that's his play style, right? You can't necessarily take that away from him because you lose some of the splash plays. To round it out, Illinois State. Yeah, I've got them 13 in my rankings, and I still don't feel great about it. Their defense is super underwhelming. Do you catch their score from this week?
Yeah, you can't take on Murray State and have that sort of result. I'm sorry.
You can't give up 30 plus to Murray. That is terrible.
That'd be like giving up like 30 to Youngstown. You just can't do it.
Yeah, who would ever do such a thing?
Hey, I'm wearing the hat. I know. I'm wearing the hat.
So I think that I think their offense is decent. I think Tommy Rittenhouse is good. Winker's Wright is good. Daniel Sopkowitz is good. Not telling anyone anything new there, but even with Ty Niekamp, that defense, it's not good this year. And I think they're going to struggle in Valley play here as they get to some of the better teams.
Yeah, the Valley's going to work itself out. And those top 10s, it is interesting. There are weaknesses on these teams, and that is going to play a factor as the season plays on.
Can I just make one little quick add? I read today, and it hasn't been many people, but there's a couple of people like comparing Tarleton to Tennessee Tech, and I think Tennessee Tech is good. I actually probably have them ranked higher than everyone else, but that is more of the Sam Houston type of conversation that we're going to talk about. Like Tarleton, actually, right now, if you end the season right now, they have a stronger strength of schedule than NDSU. Right now, as the season goes, NDSU is definitely going to have a stronger strength of schedule. But Tennessee Tech has a bottom 10 strength of schedule. Right? They look elite, but they have not played anyone. And I'm rooting for him. I hope Kiko continues to do well. He looked like dog crap this last week against Charleston Southern. They did not look good at all. But that is the comparison. It's like that's the weak schedule that I think people are thinking Tarleton has for some reason. It's not even comparative in terms of the strength of schedule. Tennessee Tech has a bottom. I think they're 117, 118, and playing Charleston Southern didn't help them. So they're going to finish with maybe a top 80 out of 120-something teams, where Tarleton's going to finish at about 30. So very big difference. I wouldn't compare the two, and if I had to put them together, I think Tarleton wins by 14+.
Very good. Well, Kyler, you better know what you're talking about with teams, because you have a shout-out from Mr. Keith Nelson. And he says, Kyler, why will no one talk about UC Davis? Now 5-1 and beat Northern Arizona. That's a team we've even mentioned quite a bit on the podcast. Is the no contest versus Mercer going to hurt them, or can an upset over the Bobcats flip the narrative? Okay, the UC Davis unpackaging. You got a team that's just quietly there, and I got to admit, I have not focused on them whatsoever. Why is that?
I mean, probably here's the main reason. We saw them blowing out Mercer, and then Mercer started coming back to where people were even going, they had all the momentum. If there's a couple more minutes on the field before the game canceled, maybe Mercer's actually kind of come back and actually win the game. Then you struggle at Tennessee Tech. You win by 7. You do well against Southern Utah a little bit, right? You lose by about 4, or you win by about 14 or so. Weaver's been awful. And then you have Cal Poly, who does look improved, but again, they haven't been impressive wins. This is the first win that maybe you start to go, all right, they're fairly impressive. But then on the flip side, and this is why I'm not 100% sold on UC Davis, and I think the Big Sky actually isn't that good this year, Northern Arizona hasn't really looked good either. If we think about it, in the grand scheme of things, they're hanging on this Incarnate Word win, which Incarnate Word is not good. I saw them live, and I was like, that's just not a top-tier team. And then, Montana State made them look pretty bad. So NAU doesn't have a good win. They don't have a good win. But this is kind of that threshold on, all right, this is the game where maybe you're going to see which one is a playoff caliber team who can maybe do some sneaky things. This NAU versus, UC Davis game. And it was at UC Davis. UC Davis is 5-1. I think they have a talented team, but the reason why people aren't talking about them is just they look, I don't know, they just don't look elite enough. They look complete to a point, but they haven't played anyone that's going to make us go, man, this UC Davis team is really good yet. I don't know who else is on their schedule. You pull it down. Man, honestly, they might only have one good team on their whole schedule. If you think about it in the grand scheme of things, that Montana State game, that's where we're going to get a feel for who UC Davis is. Idaho State sucks. I'm sorry. People are thinking they're good all of a sudden. No, they're not. Idaho State, they have a decent offense, nothing else. So UC Davis should win. Idaho looks pretty dang awful now, too. They don't have a good win. They haven't been impressive. In Sacramento State, they've been really up and down, but they haven't been impressive either. So, again, you have only one game really on UC Davis's whole schedule to really make a stance. And if you can make it competitive versus Montana State, cool. Now you're looking at potentially a top 8 seed at 10-2. But if you don't make it competitive and you're 10-2, maybe you're not. Or if you drop one of these other games to mediocre teams, they're not the worst of the worst, but they're mediocre at best. That's where it's, I don't know. I'm not sold on UC Davis. I ranked them higher this week for sure, because this was at least their first true test, in my opinion. But again, when you start analyzing NAU's resume, it's not like NAU's really been tested, and it's kind of what I said about NAU in the preseason. We're ranking them high, in the top 25, but they haven't earned that ranking yet. You look at what NAU's done this year. Have they earned anyone's top 25 votes? No, they're still going to be in the top 25. But their resume at Northern Arizona is not impressive too. But we're holding on to them like they're this top 15, top 16 team. I don't see it.
I took them out this week. I didn't rank them.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think I kept them around 20, just because they've played a stronger schedule, and I saw the other couple teams drop out. Where I went, I really, after 20, I went, there shouldn't be a top 25. We should end this list at 20 right now, because there's not 25 teams deserving to be in the top 25. That is just a reality. So, I don't know. But again, if UC Davis can continue to just grind out wins, even make them competitive, then they're going to be in a good spot for the playoffs. And that's all you really want to do anyway. You want to try and get to the playoffs and see what happens. So
I do think the last 3 games, even if Idaho has struggled and Sacramento State got a little bit of go to it, I think that's could be a good way to end it. If you're competitive with Montana State, you got to look competitive. You can't go there and it can't be an NDSU Southern Illinois result, just to make that comp lazy. But you go win at Idaho, who previously was ranked, and for some reason will probably still be ranked at that time. And then Sacramento State at the end. I don't know. That's a pretty solid 10-2 schedule. That would be interesting, Kyle. I like what you said about top 8 seed. Maybe it's like, oh, are they in that bye week range, or they drop below? You're probably going to need a little bit of help because there's a lot of good teams. Alex, where do you have Davis? How do you view them? You're an excellent voter.
I've got them here. Put me on the spot here, and I have to pull up my ballot.
While he's pulling it up, pull up the standings of the Big Sky if you want to laugh. It is the most ugly standings.
And the Big Sky, because
Northern Colorado, Eastern, they're all trash. Cal Poly. I mean,
so yeah, I've got them.
I've
got them right at 8, and it's kind of one of those things, for comparison's sake. I've got Lehigh above them at 7, Monmouth below them at 9, and it's just for that reason. It's, you're undefeated against the FCS with an FBS loss. So leading into one of our questions down the road here, you do get some credit for beating what's in front of you, but at the same time, I don't know, it hasn't been sexy, for lack of a better term. You're winning these 1-score games against so-so opponents, and it's like there's people in the chat have been talking about Pinnock. Pinnock's been good, but there's nothing else on this team that gets me excited. They're an above-average team. They are probably a playoff team, maybe even a second round backdoor their way into a quarterfinal team, but there's nothing that tells me that when it comes down to playing one of the brands that they're going to do anything.
Now, maybe they're I'll throw this out for a little bit of a bias sake. Maybe they're like 2010 Eastern Washington, who was not sexy at all throughout the whole season. They were winning the games, right? But they were against really elite teams, a 7-point win. Against the dumpster fire teams, a 7-point win. So they played to like the level of their competition throughout the whole season, but they were just dogs at the end and then kept grinding it out. Maybe UC Davis is going to pull that type of a surprise. I just don't see it, because I think the top 3 of the FCS is quite a bit better than the top 3 of that maybe the FCS was in 2010.
That sounds like a Jackrabbit national title narrative, maybe, Alex, if you guys grind one out this year. Just, I don't know, Youngstown and UNI, but then end up winning the Natty. And then I can tell you guys you're all crazy for doubting that team. Too much champion complex, I think. So.
Sounds a lot like 2022, as Brendan pointed out the other day. There were several games they looked dirty there, but we're getting way off topic.
And it ended pretty well. Well, you're a Jackrabbit fan. We get to do that. And you're a guest on the show. Okay, question number 4. Kyler Elliott, cool Kyler, comes in here and says, which FCS fan base has the most reason to panic after this weekend? This is a great question. I love this. There's some easy pickings out there. Alex, as you looked into this a little bit, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Did you have one you identified?
So I was just scrolling through the national schedule here, and there's some low-hanging fruit. We talked about, well, I probably shouldn't list a whole bunch and not leave any for you guys.
I don't need one. You can take all mine.
No, I'll to once again lend to my Valley expertise and go with an easy one, kind of already talked about. Illinois State. How do you give up 32 points to Murray State playing a true freshman quarterback? Juwan Northington's a decent running back, but their lines are not good, offensive or defensive. And it's just how. I mean, you gotta play better defense than that against Murray State, even if it is on the road. I'm sorry. That's just gonna be my one. Sorry.
No, you're good. I was like, Alex, he's got so much more that he wants to say, but he's being so kind because we guested him on the show. He's being too nice. Kyler, you already talked about it. I mean, do you want to take?
Yeah, let me do it again.
I was going to leave that softball for him.
Let me go, baby. Idaho. Yeah, we're bringing the fans back down to earth. They're living their glory days of the FBS level where they were, just awful. I don't think they're quite as awful as the FBS days, but this is kind of the time where their quarterback was down. I think Joshua Wood is a talented quarterback. He hasn't really lived up to my potential, but he can run the freaking ball. He's a good dual threat. And he got injured in this last game. He didn't suit up. So probably if he plays, I doubt they lose to Northern Colorado. But guess what? You can only, play the games with people on the field. So, but Idaho should be a little nervous, right? They kind of struggled towards the end of that Montana game. Offensively, they were struggling against Utah Tech. They were in a shootout for St. Thomas. And, St. Thomas, I get it. They're a tough little Pioneer League school, but they're not even the best Pioneer League school right now. So if you're Idaho, you should be panicked. Jason Eck left. He took all of his recruits. He got New Mexico's stadium sold out for like the first time. And now Idaho's back down to the real world where they're like, what are we going to do? And now they're already starting to think their coach sucks, which guess what? It's a whole new roster. Let's see what happens in a few years. He's a hell of a recruiter. He was one of the top recruiters in Western Washington, so he knows how to find talent.
I like Thomas Ford. They're going to be okay long term.
He'll be okay. They still got great facilities for the FCS level. They still got good money. They're in a good recruiting hotbed in terms of not tons of competition. So, but Idaho fans, for at least this year, you should be very panicked. Your playoff hopes are probably already done. I took you out of my top 25 completely. From a top 7 all the way out of the top 25, and I think it's justified. And anyone who has them in the top 25 should probably revoke their card. I know Alex, you probably took them out too, right? Yeah, yes, they just don't have a resume. They don't look like a good team. Now Idaho fans are already thinking they're going to lose against Eastern. I don't know if you've watched Eastern this year; they are dog crap. So if you're already thinking they're going to lose to Eastern, then what does that say about your team? Because I don't think Idaho's going to lose to Eastern, especially Joshua Wood starting. But I know where my team is right now. We are not good. So, but yeah, Idaho fans should be very panicking that maybe it's back to the Petrino days. I don't think it is, and I think maybe they should hold the brakes a little bit, thinking it's the Petrino days. But I've seen some of those comments, and I don't think they're going to get down that bad.
Bobby's riding that motorcycle back through Lafayette. Maybe Jason will be back in Idaho before we know it.
We'll see.
Well, if I'll take a run at it here, since Alex, I'm sure you had them pegged, but I'll run off 4 quick for the fans. Northern Arizona, you're now 4-3. You were kind of this sexy pick that Kyler didn't buy into, but as you look out, their schedule's not brutal the next 5 games, so you're going to make or break it. But that also presents the opportunity, if you lose 1 or 2 of those, that could easily doom some playoff hopes. Youngstown State, you're now 3-3. You had a chance to get the Jackson. That probably puts you in the playoffs if they had pulled that upset. They could have lived and died off that game. They still have NDSU and SIU, and you're 3-3. So now you could be in the hurt bag after dropping 1 to UND, who's looking pretty damn good.
Can we add one more? Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say too. I think you just mentioned the first 3 syllables.
Yeah, Furman. My boys, all about the recruiting, but now they're at 4-2, and they're going to play Mercer still, and 2 spots coming out of the SoCon, who knows? And the conference, no one wants to talk about Elon as well. So Elon actually had a pretty solid record to start the season, but losing that game to Villanova, pretty competitive game, 29-21, I believe. And now they're down to 4-3, and you look at those CAA standings, you've dropped way down. That's a big conference. Good luck with your strength of schedule and trying to recover from that. So those are 4 teams that started hot, and now they are going to have to panic a bit.
Well, Furman didn't even start hot. They lost
No.
to Presbyterian, right? So that's
Sorry.
when they were all nervous, but then they started putting it together where we're like, all right, maybe Furman is okay. And then they just got absolutely eliminated by Western Carolina.
Yes.
So they still play Mercer. They play, Clemson. Clemson will be a loss, even though Clemson's not, the best team out there, but that will be a loss. So, yeah, you need to beat Mercer, I think, if you want a chance for the playoffs. I would not put an 8-3 versus the FCS with a loss to Presbyterian, blowout loss to Western Carolina, and then a loss to Mercer. So you got to kind of win outside of that Clemson game to really have a shot at the playoffs. So, your back's against the wall on that team.
Last one. Go ahead.
No, you're good, Alex.
Last one I was going to add is Alabama State. Not that that's, that was a fantastic game and that's not a bad loss, but just the nature of being in the same division as Jackson State, their season's essentially over now. It sucks because they're a good team, but they're not going to be good enough to get in the playoffs. They've got some really exciting players for those that catch some HBCU stuff here and there, and that's just the nature of the SWAC West this year. The probably top 2 HBCU teams being in the same division, unfortunately.
Yep, 100%.
Nature of the beast. Well, hopefully those teams can avoid the panic and do a little recovery. Oh, boy, this one's built for you two, gentlemen. Great voters, especially Alex, for all that you do with the analytics. At what point do voters, this is Justin, do voters look at body of work to sort out these rankings instead of so much weight on win versus loss? He wants to know as well, is there now enough evidence to get Idaho and South Dakota out of the top 25? I don't want to focus on that part so much. There's definitely enough evidence, I would argue, to get them out unless you guys disagree. I'd love to hear your body of work and how you look at things there, Alex, because your polls, if people don't follow you, make sure you give yourself a Twitter shout out, are always very solid, I think.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Since I've been encouraged to do so, it's just at akinkle61. To answer the second part first, Idaho, South Dakota, Northern Arizona, all out of my poll. Won't see them in there. To go back to the first portion, I'm a little confused because win-loss is your body of work. The way I look at it is start with record versus the FCS, and then, okay, how many ranked wins? And this is just roughly what I do. But, okay, if a team's got Team A is 4-2 versus the FCS. Team B is 5-1, but Team A has 3 ranked wins versus 1. That's enough to say, okay, we can probably put Team A, even if it's 2 ranked wins and their top 15 wins, right? Okay, now we can consider Team A is better. Strength of schedule faced is always huge. Like we've alluded to with some of the other discussion here, it's if you're winning close games against nobodies, then yeah, maybe you're undefeated against the FCS, but should we be looking at that the same as a team like Southern Illinois, who is 5-1 against the FCS with a loss to, 4-1, the loss to what we all said is probably heading away the best shoulders in the country, and then a close-ish loss to a Power 4 school. You're still probably going to have some leeway, subjectivity there to whether you put them above another undefeated against the FCS team. So that's kind of 10,000-foot level. Anyone wants more details, I'm always glad to talk this stuff. But that's kind of just like I said, 10,000-foot level into the insight and how I kind of handle things.
Yeah, I think like UND is a good example. I'm going to springboard into you, Kyler, because I don't vote. I don't put polls out, so I won't even pretend. I'll just be a host on this question. I think UND is like a great example of like so close to Kansas State, so close to beating Montana like last second, and now has started to look good. I see in the Red Shirt Sports poll here, tied for 15th or 16th there. And of course, that's going to change, but
that's their week 1 poll. You'd have to filter on the top.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, you had South Dakota at number 5.
All right, hold on. Sorry, Red Shirt Sports. I had a bad moment for you.
There you go.
Number 10, they're a top 10 team. But I think UND is still a great example of like body of work, win versus loss. It's almost the perfect example. Kyler, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely enough data points to really take in a body of work. Maybe the first few weeks, not really. But even that, you should be analyzing it. And if you don't look the part, you should be able to in the first few weeks I don't care if you have a team ranked number 6 and they're still winning, but maybe it's ugly wins versus a bad team. I'm one of those guys who will drop them to 24 in a heartbeat just because they haven't been impressive, right? So my poll sometimes changes pretty drastically week by week. Like I have North Dakota at 10. Sure, I get it. They have a couple losses, right? But they're close. They're competitive. They look like a top 10 team in my eye because they've had a tough strength of schedule. They look good against other elite teams. So I put them at number 10. So that doesn't actually fluctuate from what I did. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely enough data points to where you should be including body of work. That's why I also said I don't think there's 25 top 25 teams. I think we cut it off at 20 and then we jump all the way down to 50 and start the poll again because I don't think there's enough teams to join this top 25. You know, there's people putting in Gardner-Webb, and I was like, I might have to put in Gardner-Webb. I don't remember if I did or not. Because they haven't been impressive, but also what no one else has. And if I was going to rank one other team, but then they lost to Gardner-Webb, but they've looked more impressive, and they don't really have either an impressive win, but they looked a little more impressive than Gardner-Webb. I can't put them above Gardner-Webb because they still lost to Gardner-Webb. So it's making it a little difficult, but you should 100% have enough data points to look at strength of schedule, to do the eye test. Should be also paying attention. You don't have to watch every single game. You should be on your ESPN app following the games. My wife gets a little bit mad on me on Saturdays because even if we're not watching every single game, I'll pick out a few. I don't watch it religiously as I did like years ago where I had 2 TVs and a laptop and I had 4 games on each TV. I'm not doing that anymore because I work too much to where I feel bad for my wife for having to deal with me. But I'm still at least paying attention,
Alex,
looking at the trends.
I got to cut him off. I hope Kelsey's listening to this. You see what he really told? Every guy husband here is hearing this portion right here. Kyler goes, do you remember, you know how good I've been? I don't have the laptop and the phone and 2 TVs. I don't do that anymore. And Kelsey quietly doesn't know that YouTube TV has like 6 split screens and 1 screen.
The built-in quad box.
Yeah, just a built
100%. Watch it all. No, but I follow the app more than I've ever followed it in previous years because I'm not watching as many games full through. Where I used to flip through games all the time. Now I'll pick like 5 games I want to watch throughout the day, which is a big difference from 25 to 50 games on a Saturday. But yeah, there's 100% enough data points to where you should be able to look at not just this team won again against a bum team, so I'm just going to keep them where they are. Strength of schedule is huge. What are you doing? How are you looking? Are they competitive? Are you playing the other elite teams? You should be able to do a little more analytics dive, or if you can't, go ask Alex. He can help you out. He can build it for you. He can show you what's really going on. And the success rate of 89% for the offensive ability of NDSU, he could put it there.
Yeah, that's why we trust experts like himself, which is actually perfect for the last question in the top 6 topics of the week. This one, I'm surprised took so long to get asked, but I'm glad it did. Kyler Elliott comes in here at the end. Fun one. Thoughts on the FCS exploring private investment for operating the playoffs? I'm going to be completely honest. I have no opinion on this, nor have I looked too much into it. It, to me, felt like an article that was just like, oh, and then it'll just die. But it doesn't really seem that way. Okay, private equity over the NCAA. This is the world we live in. Kyler, open perspective. What do you got?
I mean, there's positives and negatives to it for sure. The positives are, if it's private equity, they are in the business of trying to make money, right? The NCAA, they already have their money. They're going to take a loss on the FCS playoffs probably, right? That's why we have to bid on stuff. So if it is private equity, it is in their best interest to figure out a way to, generate revenue, which also means probably more revenue for the schools, more TV spots, more notoriety. So there's a lot of cool things that can at least excel and amplify the brand of the FCS. But also the back end on that is they want to make their money, right? So now they could be pushing teams that maybe have a larger fan base, maybe a larger TV audience, and maybe not the resume. Now, it already seems like, I'm not going to say that's going to happen for sure, and hopefully there's some integrity when you're doing the playoff committee. I mean, we already see a bulk of it coming from the Missouri Valley and Big Sky anyway, to where that's a bulk of like the TV revenue, bulk of the bigger fan bases. Sorry about that, outside of the SWAC. But yeah, there could be some sketchy things where they go, you know what? We really want to see an NDSU versus SDSU meet in the championship. we're going to do our best to put them on opposite sides of the bracket, even if maybe, let's say, a Montana, I'm throwing it out there, has a better resume and should be the 2 seed. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but there's a chance when you go private equity, they're going to want those marquee matchups, and it may make it a little more difficult for everyone else. Hopefully there's integrity. But yeah, there's some positives and negatives to it. I would like to see it happen just to build up the brands, right? I think we can all agree the NCAA doesn't really care about the FCS as much, right? It's reality. They prefer their bowl games in front of 2,000 people that no one watches on a Tuesday night over the FCS playoffs, which is ridiculous in a home venue, a ruckus crowd, typically if you're a top tier team. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. There's positives, there's negatives. I'd be interested to see what happened, but I'd also kind of put my seatbelt on and take a step back and go, this could crash and burn too.
I would actually, for the first time in life, worry a little bit about the playoff seeding and how they look at teams and matchups and things. Because if it is about making money, and I don't care if it's coming from a Bison fan, I always say, why don't you look at the resume and tell me when they didn't deserve the 1-2 or that year when they actually weren't seeded. Like I said, it was going to play out. I think the playoff committee has done a pretty darn good job of putting teams where they earned it. And I don't think there's any evidence of proving like they're always going to put them in this corner. They're always going to send SDSU to Fargo. They're always going to make the Valley play each other. Yeah, they did, but then they fixed that rule and they eliminated it. And last year, NDSU won head-to-head, so SDSU was the 3. And then in previous years, there's one year where Montana State got the shaft. I'll never forget that. There was one season where I was like, ooh, that's a big swing and a miss. But beyond
your big one was Sac State. You thought they got the shaft that one year.
Yeah, I thought they got screwed on that year. But like, those are such small examples on a big picture of I think they've done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I would worry about what money does to the integrity of we really don't care. This is just where the teams are supposed to go. Alex, your thoughts?
No, I agree with you guys wholeheartedly on the negative side. Another example of that was that 2021 or 2022, Montana was 7-4 and maybe kind of snuck in the playoffs over I forget who, shouldn't have, because they're going to bid for a game, and that's money in the NCAA's pocket. And that's a micro level. We're talking macro level now, because if you read the Sam Herder article you have up, that's specifically what they cited is, their TV viewership numbers for both semis last year, the championship, they were very happy with it. And this private equity firm that they were having analyze this said, your viewership relative to what you're getting paid for that is substandard. Because once again, if you dig more into this article, and you should read it, don't take my summary, but to buy an ad in Nashville, you have to also, like, it's packaged. You have to buy an ad at like the track and field championships and the swim and dive championships and stuff like that. So it's like when you go to a bakery and you buy so many donuts, you get a bunch of donut holes, because otherwise what are we going to do with these donut holes, sort of thing. This private equity sees value in divorcing it from that and then truly getting the full value out of that. The only other thing, once again, I have to add to what you guys said is I found it was very interesting, but then I stopped and thought about it. It made sense. It actually sounds like a lot of the smaller schools and conferences are the ones kind of driving this boat, because once again, you talk about the bid process and things like that. Unless you make a deep run and you're going to the semis or the championships, the Montanas and the Dakota States are losing money on playoff runs. If you're Villanova in 2021 and you lose to SDSU in the quarters, or even Villanova in 2023 and you lose to SDSU in the quarters, Villanova has the money to cover that with their basketball revenue in the Big East. But you go to some of these other smaller schools that make a similar run. Yeah, great. We made the Final 8, and then it cost us $300,000 to do it. So they're looking at that from the flip side there.
Yeah, that's why a lot of those small schools that, your Kennesaw State, your others, the goal is probably to get to the FBS. But we heard that through Sam Herder and in their narratives talking about these individuals of like, hey, we feel like we can get more hype out of our program getting bowl game wins or going to them than even getting to the quarters and or the second round in the FCS playoffs. And we feel like we can make more revenue that way too. Is that the case? Time will tell. But it is interesting to see if you don't feel like you're actually going to be winning championships. And like you said, it still costs you money. Could private equity solve a lot of those problems? And that's just where we're at. You have to make money in college athletics nowadays.
To tie one final thought into it, that's something Brendan and I, for those that listen to our stuff, know Brendan and I are both very into this. And Brendan brought up a really good point. He's like, does that actually help keep teams at the FCS level? Because you redo the media contract for the playoffs, and all of a sudden there's teams that lose money on going to bowl games because you have to sell X number of tickets. Yeah. And all of a sudden, are you actually money ahead staying FCS by making it to the second quarterfinal round? I think that is a positive that could come out of this.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Not a positive for a lot of folks if they're trying to get rid of the Dakotas, the Montanas. Give them every reason to leave. Wow, this has been a solid hour on this podcast. It's been enjoyable. Alex, you're going to owe this guy dessert, but for now, we're going to just bet tacos.
Taco King, coming to you from bright and sunny Fargo, North Dakota. It's time for a taco bet, and time for you losers to pay up.
All right, Dan's question is going to lead us into the taco bet for Taco King. He says, there is a bubble at the top of the FCS. We all see it. It's the same old, plus Tarleton. Halfway through the season, are we set to have 4 of the top 5 in the semifinal? Because it sort of feels that way to me. Okay, here we go. This seems to be a classic one, and this is to Dan's question. We've used this taco bet probably 3 years in a row, but I like it. So I'm going to go 3.5 over, under, Valley and Big Sky teams in the semifinals of the playoffs. We're about halfway through the season. So here you go. 3.5. It's an over under Valley, Big Sky. Alex, we're going to put you on the stage first, man. What do you think?
So if you look at playoff history, granted, the CAA used to be better, so that helps. But other than last year, this hasn't really happened. I mean, even speaking of CAA 2023, you had Albany come out of nowhere and make the semis, right? So I got to take the under. There's going to be someone, whether it's through a fortunate draw or Tennessee Tech or Tarleton State is a little better than we think. I think it's probably safe to say, once again, pending how the draw falls, you could probably Sharpie in 3 of your top 6 Valley and Big Sky teams, but I still think there's a 4th other that sneaks in there somewhere.
All right, Mr. Neal for tacos. What do you got?
Yeah, I could definitely see the semifinals being Missouri Valley and Big Sky, and I can even see it being potentially 3 Missouri Valley, 1 Big Sky. But I do think it is tough to put the line at 3.5 and bet for the over. I think it's a lock for probably 3, like Alex said. That 4th one is going to be a little bit more of a tricky situation. Is someone going to go down if Tarleton goes undefeated? Would I trust Montana to go to Tarleton and get the upset? Not if they're starting this slow, because I don't think they're going to be able to come from behind in that type of an offense. And would I trust Southern Illinois' maybe lackluster defense to get in a shootout with Tarleton as well? Maybe not. That could be an interesting game. But again, they all have to win to get the high seeds, and I don't really know until the seeding comes out, because a team can completely, if Tarleton loses one, now they're looking at maybe a 6-7 seed instead of a top 3, which would completely change the rhetoric. So, right. But I think it's safe to assume I would go the under. I think 3's a lock, but I'm going to go the under.
I'm going to go with Bill Dent. I'm going to go 3 Valley, 1 Big Sky. I don't know. I think UND and Southern Illinois have a lot to offer once they get outside of the Valley and not against an NDSU, SDSU. And the 16 playoff seeds is interesting. This is all predicated off of where you go as these things play out. So, but I'm going to take the over. I'm going to see if we have that style of season. And if the Grizz are at home, I'm very confident that they can continue winning in the playoffs. So, well, that was quick and easy for you guys. Let's get on to some quick hits.
Just because your question is answered quickly doesn't mean we don't care. It's time for this week's quick hit questions.
Kyler, you're just getting shout outs left and right for people to answer questions. Okay.
Mariners are up.
Mariners are up. Congratulations to you and Chris and Everybody up there in
No,
Seattle.
it's still a couple more innings, brother. We'll lose it. Don't worry.
Oh, yep. You can blame the jinx on me. Scott wants to know, Kyler, how's the game in Cheney next weekend shaping up with the Cats bye week? Would you like some help rooting on the Eagles? There you go. What do you got?
100%. There's going to be some, tickets available. Eastern's only been averaging like 5,000 fans, and after the total destruction of Idaho the last few weeks, I don't think they'll be traveling as much to fill up the stands as well. It should still be a nice, fun 7,000 seat type of game, which in that stadium looks like it's a pretty good atmosphere, surprisingly. But yeah, come to Cheney. I think there's going to be available seats, and at least it's a fun game. Idaho and Eastern Washington, that's the two closest FCS teams to each other, right? So it has been up and down. Pretty much the home team keeps winning. So come to the game, root on the Eagles, and let's keep vandalizing the Vandals.
Very cool. I'm going to steal this one because the comments have spoken of it tonight. What team is going to create chaos in their conference? Example is UNC beating Idaho. I think we're going to get some questions on them next week, no matter what, because UND is going to Southern Illinois, but South Dakota State and North Dakota State are both going to have to go to Grand Forks, and we did this last year of like the away records and home records of UND. It is wild how good UND has been in Grand Forks, like unbelievably like top tier last half decade, great home team, and they're playing well. They upset one of those big dogs, and this whole thing turns upside down. Alex, I feel like you just have to get something off your chest with that comment.
No, I think that's totally plausible. I was having some discussion. This is like a separate 5-10 minute discussion, so it wouldn't go fully down the road. But I think even if the loser of the marker loses to UND, they're still probably a top 4 or top 5 seed. Thanks in part specifically to SDSU beating Montana State. That was huge for the Valley as a whole. But the only other thing I was going to add is the flip side, if you want to do the home and away record thing, is there's 2 programs with a better winning record than UND and the Alaris since they moved up to D1. You can probably guess who those 2 schools are.
Yeah.
Eastern Washington, that's one.
Well, yeah, those Big Sky days were not kind to UND whatsoever. Last half decade, remember. Okay. Is UCA good now, says Chase, going to you, Kyler, and early projections on the final 2 teams joining the UAC. Rumors are either from D2 or from the OVC. Okay, UCA and then UAC. So the team, are they good now? They got to win this weekend.
No, I mean, not Central Arkansas. We're just talking about the conference, right? UAC or U?
I think he meant the UAC because UCA, no, they're still not good.
No, UCA sucks. If he means the conference,
I believe Chase is a UCA fan. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, UCA is not very good. So if we just want to end on there, I love the purple stripes. I love the Bears. I got a cool, shirt from them. That old logo, the Bear logo, is one of my favorites, especially on that white helmet. It just looks phenomenal, and I'll always root for UAC or UCA, but they're just not a good team this year.
Well, is offensive play calling or a lack of execution a bigger problem in the FCS, says Dustin. So, Alex, what do you got?
I think it's door number 3, the players. I think especially get into some of these bottom half conferences, you get a guy who's a real stud athlete. He can cover up a lot of issues with either. But if you're going to put me on the spot and make me pick an answer to Dustin's question, I will say execution perfect. Personally, but the 2 kind of go hand in hand. If you're not being put in a good spot by the play design, your odds of executing are not very high. But if I have to pick, I'm going to say execution is a bigger deal.
Very cool. Cody Wellman, I've watched multiple Big Sky games this year, and it doesn't matter who's playing. I haven't seen a holding call all season. Are other conferences also not calling holding? This is subject to, I guess, what you've watched, what you've seen. I feel like it's down a little. I feel like they're really letting them play in the Valley, but that's not unnormal. So.
As a subject matter expert, am I allowed to interject?
Yeah, we have an official here.
So those that don't know, I am actually a white hat for South Dakota high school football. And I've gone to some camps and stuff where we've learned and been instructed by NFL and NCAA officials. And part of the issue, actually, with the Big Sky officiating is when the Pac-12 dissolved. So every FCS conference is partnered with FBS conferences, and they shared an official pool. And then you would get promoted up and down within that. Well, then when the Pac-12 fell apart, a lot of the good Pac-12 guys ended up in the Big Ten or the ACC because that's all the West Coast schools now. And so the Big Sky was kind of left with the island of misfit toys. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude because those guys are at a way higher level, making way more money than I am. They're way better than I am. But relative to the rest of the FCS, it's the island of misfit toys. So that's conference alignment is actually why Big Sky officiating is so.
The good news is if we don't like the whistle being blown, it's a good thing for Big Sky fans if you're on the winning side of those calls, because I think they have like 8 of the 12 Big Sky teams in the top 50 of less penalty yards, or penalty calls. So if you want the boys to play, hey, they're playing. Just don't be pissed when it doesn't go your way. But also just remember, if it doesn't go your way, that also means it probably didn't go the other team's way multiple times as well.
Listen, I gotta say, I knew Alex was going to come on here with like analytics and data and just crush us and just be incredible. I did not expect him to knock a Mariners home run out of the park with freaking how officials have moved through tradition of college football. That was like the best answer we've had all year.
That's also why Southland crews actually usually work the title game. One, you can't have a officiating crew from the conference because, like, when SDSU and NDSU played, or NDSU and Illinois State played, they still couldn't have a Valley crew technically. Yeah. But outside of the Southland not making the title game, the Southland actually has been doing this the longest, and the Big 12 is graded consistently highest among the Power 4 conferences, and the Southland is partnered directly with the Big 12. So that's also why the Southland has some of the best officials.
NDSU, SDSU played in Frisco. I don't recall that. So
you were there. I saw you. It was awesome.
Awesome. Next question is from Taco King and Michael. Is Tarleton a paper tiger? Can they truly beat SIU, UND, or XDSUs and Montanas? Is it time to hit the panic button on their defense, says Michael, giving up 89 points over the last 3 games to below average teams? You kind of got into this. Paper tiger? Yes? No?
No, I mean, they're not going to beat the, SDSU and NDSU, but the other ones I think they can be pretty dang competitive with. Sure, they've given up 80 points in 3 games, and they've scored almost 200 with a backup quarterback. It's been one competitive game all season.
Yeah, I would say Paper Tigers we love them, but Tennessee Tech metrics align better with a Paper Tiger than what Tarleton is doing.
Yeah.
Wade says, if West Carolina ends up on the bubble, will the committee consider the absence of Dickens in 2 one-score FCS losses? Can he win the Peyton even without playing the first 3 weeks? All right, Alex, there you go. Will they look into that in comparison to body of work and win-loss?
I have a little bit personally. I'm not on the playoff committee, so I can't speak for what they will do. But I did move Western Carolina back in my rankings this week. I think Teron Dickens, obviously he had the viral 53 for 56 game last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess technically. But even last week he played well, and they have to find some defense if they're going to do anything once they get into the playoffs. But their offense is exciting. They're fun to watch. Can he win the Peyton without playing the first 3 weeks? I meant to look up before the show if there was any precedent on that with flip side a guy being injured or anything like that. I mean, technically, obviously, yes, but I think it's going to be hard for anyone to beat Cole Peyton right now. That's just fact of the matter.
We'll cut that part out so Brian doesn't start blowing our phones up. Alex, you earned yourself a lot of food from Brian with that comment. I'll tell you what, he might buy you 3 desserts now. Should Montana State jump ahead of Montana in the rankings, says Eric. Montana State fan coming at you, FCS Gold member. Kyler, is it time? Do they jump?
I've never had Montana ranked above Montana State, so my opinion, I guess, doesn't matter. I've kept them at number 3 all year. I thought that game against SCSU if I'm ranking them as 2 and it's double overtime, very close, last play, okay, they didn't prove that they don't belong in the top 3, and then they've had one struggle game where they won by 7. They still won by 17 points. Other than that, they've blown out everyone. They look better.
Yeah, that's I'd say again, there's body of work and win-loss. Kickoff for the SDSU-NDSU game has yet to be announced. What's the chance of College Game Day comes back to Brookings, says Dustin. 1 versus 2. Alex, you probably know the data. What is it?
It's about 0. And I'm not, so side Kabar, I'm not just saying that because I'm salty and I would have to miss it again. I missed Game Day the first time it was in Brookings because I was on my honeymoon.
It's a good reason.
And my wife and I literally were sitting in our Airbnb on like the Wednesday or Thursday. It's now it's like, do we try to change our flights over? And we looked at like what the cost was to like change our flights over. It's like, we're going to drink on the island for one more day. But anyhow, and my brother-in-law's wedding's the marker game, so I'm not even going to that this year either. But apart from me just being salty that I would have to miss it for the second time, there's like, as it sits, Dallas, who's once again part of Jackrabbit Illustrated, ever since Game Day has come for the marker, he does this every year now, whether it's in Fargo or Brookings. He tracks what FBS games are going on that weekend.
Too many good ones.
There's like 3 or 4 like top 15 matchups. And then you add to that the guy who was kind of in charge of input on some of the host sites and was a kind of a smaller school advocate that kind of got us these one smaller school game day every year or two. When they did the restructuring at the end of 2023, he's no longer with Game Day. So I hope everyone likes Game Day going to A4 schools for the foreseeable future.
Crazy. Well, that's a sad thing because there's been some good memories at some of these schools that really deserve the opportunity. All right, here you go. Last 2, even if it's not football, we'll always answer them. Eric comes around the bend. Favorite Ozzy Osbourne song? Oh boy, what do you got? Rest in peace, rest in power, King. Kyler, Ozzy song. What do you got?
Probably this one's probably a little bit crazy that people they're not going to think of it. But Mr. Crowley, I love.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, you can go with the main ones, but yeah, I love Mr. Crowley. Bum, bum, bum. Love it.
So sick. Alex, what do you got?
No, I wouldn't have even thought of that, but I love that song. So that's a good pick, Kyler. I was going to go Crazy Train because that Randy Rhoads guitar solo, the original, can't beat it. Or Paranoid because, once again, that opening guitar riff just da 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 da. I mean, just sucks you in right away.
No doubt.
There you go.
We have the Revs' favorite Ozzy song, Paranoid, or No More Tears, and Mr. Crowley. He's got them all on there. Mama, I'm Coming Home. I used to listen to that back in my military days. I thought that was just as more of the emotional side of it. Crazy Train is the classic, if you ask me, just from high school and stuff. But Mama, I'm Coming Home was such a good song, and what a great way for him to end it. Kyler Elliott ends us with this: Marvel or DC? Alex, nerd culture guy, what do you got?
Not a lot. I don't get into the superhero stuff. It seems like, to totally play political as a guy who doesn't read a lot of comic books or watch a lot of superhero movies, it seems like DC has the cooler IP, but Marvel is way better about using theirs, and I will just leave it at that.
That's a solid analysis. I've seen some great DC films. I felt like there's never been a better combination of those last 2-3 Avengers movies, and how they ended Endgame was a flawless moment in movie history. And also, just to be a little personal, I think I was like 34 then, and since Endgame and Marvel has ended and I had my 3rd kid, I can feel myself, and I try to fight it. Like, new stuff comes out and I go, just a little bit. It's at 10%, right? But Endgame was like the last, this was mine and Allison and ours. Like, we had this for 20 years. And now, that was the end of just such a great time into a different stage of life. So I have to take Marvel, but I do enjoy DC. Kyler? Thoughts?
Yeah, The Dark Knight is still the greatest superhero movie of all time.
Gosh.
But
so good.
Marvel, especially in the first 4 series or whatever you want to call them, just had banger after banger. They tied it all well together. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is just unparalleled with anything DC's ever done, and they're trying to do it now with James Gunn, and it is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah, Marvel.
For sure. As we get into the ending here, Mr. Seth Meyer is on the live comments, and I should find that photo and get it popped up here. But yes, he gave me this beautiful hat. By the way, literally, the trim and everything is flawless. Seth, thank you so much. I love wearing it on the podcast. And win or lose, I'll probably rock it after that marker game. So thank you again. And since we have a Jackrabbit fan who got me a hat and is in the comments, Alex, we give you the final stage to again tell people where they can find you, what you're about, and your final thoughts as we roll into another week of FCS football.
No, thanks again, guys, for having me. Like I said, at akinkle61 on X is where I'm probably most active, but then Jackrabbit Illustrated, Scared Money Don't Make Money, but you should check out all the other stuff too. If you're looking for anything SDSU specific, we got the A team and the B team. Matt does a ton of cool stuff on the blog. I do my little piece there with the Valley stuff on Missouri Valley by the numbers. And that's about it.
Heck yeah, man. We'll see you in Nashville. Will we see you in Nashville?
I'm tentatively
no?
planning on it.
Okay.
I know my wife's a little leery, so the most we've ever left the kids with grandma and grandpa's for like a night or two. Yeah. So doing it for more than that is challenging, which I get. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have the same apprehension, but tentatively right now we are planning on it.
Alex, you get, don't worry. I think in this 10 years of the podcast, I've gotten so many questions of will you or Matt go here? And those baby boys and girls are definitely the reason that always stall it. But that's for good reason. It means you're doing good things. Kyler, final thoughts before we roll on out and you can watch your Mariners.
Mariners are up 2-1, top of the 8th. Let's go, baby. We got to do this. Go to the World Series.
Mariners are up and FCS football is up, and we're loving every moment of it. Thanks for joining us on the FCS Fans Nation podcast. We'll catch you guys next week. Boom.